Right now, a single nation maintains an undisputed military footprint across every ocean, projecting force through carrier strike groups that have no global rival. That reach extends beyond the planet itself. This remains the only nation to have successfully landed humans on the lunar surface and returned them home. On the ground, it manages a massive economic network, anchored by hyperdense metropolitan hubs that serve as the clearinghouses for global finance. Historians track the lifespan of empires on a bell curve: the climb, the peak, and downward slide. Mapped against Rome, America's trajectory is much steeper, achieving centuries of influence in just 250 years, placing it exactly where historical decline begins. To see if this giant will plummet or defy the cycle, we have to look past the modern surface. We need to deconstruct the violent, improbable way this empire was actually assembled. In 1492, the arrival of Christopher Columbus triggered a total disruption of the known world, revealing a landmass that European powers hadn't known existed. The response was a chaotic gold rush. Rival empires flooded across the Atlantic to carve out new colonies, treating the continent as a prize. This scramble for territory was devastating. Millions of indigenous people died from disease and warfare as these empires fought to extract as much wealth from the soil as possible. The American foundation wasn't built through quiet settlement. It was forged in a century of ruthless imperial collisions. By the late 1700s, friction between the colonies and their overseas masters reached a breaking point, as the settlers rejected the heavy taxes and political control of the British Crown. On July 4, 1776, these 13 separate rebellious colonies declared themselves a single independent nation. At the time, this was a massive strategic mismatch. The colonies were pitting a fractured, volunteer militia against the most professional military and deepest treasury on the planet. This was the ultimate underdog gamble, a revolution that gave birth to a new kind of republic, designed specifically to challenge the concept of empire. That small coastal republic didn't stay small for long. Over the next 100 years, it tripled its size, buying, fighting for, and seizing land until its borders reached the Pacific. This expansion survived a brutal civil war that consolidated federal power and cleared the way for a massive industrial surge. By the turn of the century, American factories were producing more steel than Great Britain and Germany combined. That industrial engine was funneled into 2 world wars, forcing the United States to build a military-industrial complex capable of outproducing every other combatant on Earth. By 1945, this former frontier outpost was producing half of the entire world's manufactured goods and holding the majority of its gold reserves. The 1776 experiment worked beyond any reasonable expectation, creating a world that now largely functions on American terms. This influence is embedded in the global fabric, from the dollar acting as the world's reserve currency to the technologies that power the internet. But history shows that the top spot is always the most precarious. Being the undisputed leader makes you the primary target for every rising power looking to rewrite the rules. Which brings us back to that historical curve. Is the giant's dominance sustainable, or are we watching a nation that has already passed its peak? America's rise from a bleeding frontier to a global giant is a story of incredible speed and violence. Its ultimate legacy, however, will be decided by what happens next.